The following occurred in Rhode Island, 1892. Long before vampires became myths, and before they had costumes in novels, they were explanations. They're what people turned to when doctors failed, when prayer went unanswered, and when death refused to behave the way it was supposed to. In one small New England town, people believed the dead were feeding on the living. And to stop it, they dug up a girl named Mercy Brown. This is not a legend. This actually happened. And what followed never truly ended. I arrived in Exeter during the worst winter the town had seen in decades. Snow buried fences, ice sealed the roads. Smoke from chimneys hung low and heavy, like the town itself was struggling to breathe. I was sent from Providence to document deaths, nothing more. Just the names, dates, causes. The papers called it tuberculosis. The people of Exeter called it wasting. Entire families were shrunk away. Strong men became thin and hollow. Children coughed until their bed sheets were stained red. Mothers whispered prayers while holding rags soaked in blood. And beneath every whispered prayer, there was fear. Because the sickness didn't move randomly. It stayed within families, and it didn't stop until someone had died. At the general store, I spoke quietly. "They're not resting," one man said. They come back hungry." Another. I heard stories. Doors opening on their own, of footsteps in empty rooms, of cold hands brushing warm skin in the night. And then one name kept resurfacing. Mercy Brown. She had been dead for 2 months, and people still claimed that she was still walking. The brown farmhouse stood alone on the edge of town. Its boards were gray and warped. The windows were dark with soot. Edwin Brown answered the door. He looked like a man already half buried. "My wife went first," he told me, voice shaking. "Then, my eldest daughter." He swallowed. "And now my boy." From the back of the room came coughing, deep, wet. Edwin Brown III laid in bed, barely moving. His eyes were open but unfocused, like he was watching someone else no one else could see. "They come at night," Edwin whispered. Whispers, footsteps. Then his voice broke. "And Mercy! She stands at the foot of my bed." The room felt colder when he said her name. I slept in the parlor that night. The house creaked constantly, settling under the weight of the winter. Sometime after midnight, I heard footsteps above me. Slow, bare footsteps, carefully moving. Then I dreamed. A girl was standing in the snow outside the house. She wore a burial dress with frost. Her dark hair clung to her face. Her lips were red. "He is mine," she whispered, in a voice that couldn't be a girl's. I woke grasping, my chest burned. Outside my window, something scratched gently against the siding. It sounded like fingernails. 2 days later, the town council met. Not doctors or scientists, only frightened men. Their decision was final. The bodies of all who had died by consumption were to be exhumed. They believed the dead were feeding on the living, and that Mercy Brown was the cause. I argued my reason, I argued my science of 20 years of training. but fear drowned me out. At dawn, the town gathered at the cemetery. The ground was frozen solid. It took hours to break through. The mother was first among the Browns. Only bones were there. She had died some months. The sister next. She was the same. Then Mercy. When the coffin lid opened, the crowd gasped. Her skin was pale but untouched by decay. Her hair was full, her face peaceful. Someone pressed down on her chest. It resisted. Blood stained her lips. "She's been feeding," someone whispered. I leaned closer. Her mouth opened, just slightly. And when I put my ear to her chest, I could hear it. She was breathing. My protestations were unheard. The people, afraid, cut out Mercy Brown's heart. It was heavy and warm and full of blood, too full for someone to be dead for 2 months. They burned it on a stone. Thick black smoke rose into the air, carrying the smell of iron and rot. The ashes were mixed with water, and they were given to Edward Brown III to drink. Mercy was buried again, and that night the wind screamed through Exeter like something furious had been buried, alive. The boy lived, for a while, but the town never recovered. Animals were found drained. Dogs refused to leave their porches. Children spoke of a pale woman humming near the woods. Graves sunk inward. Doors opened at night. I stayed longer than I should have. Something wasn't finished. I felt drawn to stay. Weeks later, I returned to the cemetery, alone. Mercy's grave had collapsed inwards. It was as if something from inside had pulled it inward. And then I heard it. There was snow crunching behind me. I couldn't have looked at her grave for more than a moment before I heard it. And then I turned. She stood between the headstones. Her eyes were glowing faint red. "You burned my heart," she said calmly, "but you didn't kill me." She stepped closer. "Do you know what keeps the dead buried?" she asked. I couldn't speak. "Being remembered kindly." Her hand touched my chest. My heart faltered. I returned to Providence coughing. They call it consumption. I know better. Some mornings I wake with blood on my lips. Some nights I hear her voice. Rhode Island remembers Mercy Brown as superstition. But listen carefully. They burned her heart, and she learned to live without it.